are you doing? It's been a while, but I thought I'd hop in here and share a story from my time when I worked in residence life. I think residence life is a career that not a lot of people know about, but a lot of people do. A lot of people practice it, not they know about it. Not a lot of people know about it, but a lot of people practice it. In most cases, if you work at a university in student affairs, which is the non-academic side of the university, housing, residence life, campus rec, student activities, orientation, things like that, most likely you have had a foray at one point or another into the residence life field, particularly because the jobs are so common. It's a typical entry-level job. A resident director is a professional staff member who supervises one particular residence hall, and then there are other positions like area coordinator, neighborhood manager, assistant director of residence life. Depending on what they're called differently at many different universities across the country. They all pretty much do the same thing, but they might supervise a different variety of residence halls and staff members. So there's just a lot of residence director or hall director positions. And I'm just surprised that you don't see a lot more vloggers from the residence life field, because the job is definitely that of an educator, except that you aren't teaching in a classroom. You're living in the residence halls with the students as they experience life and live life, and so you're helping them try to understand the decisions they made and how it impacts their goals in the future. You're helping them learn how to get along well with others and to deal with the structure of the university and other aspects of their lives. So it definitely is an educator position, although not one of the more orthodox ones that you know of. So I thought I would share one of my crazier residence life stories, because the residence life job is a 24/7 job. That's probably why they give you an apartment as part of your compensation, an on-campus apartment, because you really are working 24/7 helping students whenever problems do crop up, which tends to be at 2:30 in the morning. So here is one of the crazier stories I've experienced. Saturday morning, I was in my apartment in the residence hall where I lived, and I received a phone call from the resident advisor on duty, and she said that she heard some screaming. It sounded like it was between a male and a female in a room, in one of her residence rooms down the hall from her. So I told her to just go knock at the door, address the situation, see if she could help, see what was going on, and then follow back up with me. So a couple minutes later, I get a phone call from the RA saying that it was a domestic disturbance between a man and a woman. They had broken up the night before, and the male had gone back to the female's room to retrieve some belongings that belonged to him. And in the process of that, this is where their stories differed. The girl had a bloody lip. The girl said that she was pulling against a laptop. They were fighting over a laptop. The guy had one end, the girl had the other end. They were tugging back and forth. The man let go. The laptop flew back and hit her in the face, causing the bloody lip. The other person's story was that someone had borrowed an iPod, and they threw the iPod across the room into a box, and it hit the girl's face. At any point, she was upset, wanted to contact campus safety, press charges, whatnot, which she totally could, so that was fine. Both of these students lived in the same residence hall, so knowing that they had an argument, I was a little bit leery of them being in the same residence hall, but they were both assigned there, so they're both able to be there. So I just told them, okay, an incident report will be filed. You need to stay off each other's floors. You need to stop having contact with one another. And can you do that? And they were both like, yes, we can do that. So the male went back to his room, the female went back to her room, I went back to my apartment, and the resident advisor was going to write the incident report. And I let the female know that she could go to campus safety and report whatever she wanted to report. So I went back to my apartment. About an hour later, I get a phone call from campus safety asking me to come to their office. So I did. The female was in there with the director of campus safety, who was also a city cop in the town that I lived in. And so she was giving her story and everything, and as she was talking to myself and the police officer, she said something about her ex-boyfriend having violated his parole. And we both stopped and were like, what? What are you talking about? And she said that he had given her alcohol and she was under the age of 21, and therefore that she knew that he had violated his parole because he had told her that he had been on parole. And students' criminal records are not something that we ask for on applications at this university or housing otherwise. So we had no idea that the student had a criminal record, which is fine. I mean, it wasn't something that we asked or something that was considered whenever admitting the student to college or housing. But it did pique our interest, and she said that she would be calling her sister, who was a lawyer, and trying to get him put back in jail, which, okay, fine. You can go ahead and do that. And so she did that. I went back to my apartment. Then I get a phone call from another resident advisor in the building, and she said that she had the male student of this altercation in the room, and he was telling her his side of the story, and I just told her to write it all down, write an incident report about it, and we were trying to figure it out, and the police are involved at this point. So that was that. Went back to my apartment, felt that all the reports were being written, the police were notified, so the next step was in the police's court. Oh yes, it was. So then I get another phone call from Campus Safety saying, we need to go arrest this male student, and you need to come with us as a representative of housing because we can't enter a residence hall without a warrant. I think they maybe did get a warrant because he violated parole. But anyway, I had to be there because the police just couldn't walk into the residence hall. So I'm like, awesome, great. And one thing about this male student that I neglected to mention before was that he was about 30 years old, which was older than myself. And it's not something that we question. At universities, we are seeing a lot of more non-traditionally aged students because people are either going to the military and then going to college, or they take a few years off to work and then go to college. A variety of different reasons cause people to not start college in a traditional age of 18 or 19. So I meet the campus safety officer and police that are going to come to arrest the student. We go to the student's room, and they proceed to read him his Miranda rights and arrest him for violating parole, and they take him off to the jail. So I write an incident report, tell my supervisor that one of our students had been arrested, and that's that. Then I'm sitting there enjoying the rest of my Saturday. I get a phone call on my personal phone, not a work phone, on a personal phone, from the sister, the lawyer sister, of the female student who was involved in this situation. And she starts screaming at me, saying that the male student has been released from jail, is on his way back from campus, and if her sister gets killed, the blood is on my hands. First of all, I'm just shocked because this person should not have my personal number, so I want to know who gave her my cell phone number. She says the campus safety gave them my cell phone number, which is something they're not supposed to do. Campus safety is supposed to handle it. So this woman's screaming at me, saying, what am I going to do to protect her daughter because this man's coming back to campus? And I'm like, how does she freaking know that he's coming back to campus? Apparently, he worked at the cafeteria on campus, called them for his phone call, they posted bail, and he was going to leave campus. He was going to return to campus. So it was getting to be nighttime. I go to campus safety and say, hey, campus safety and the VP for student affairs contacts me and says, hey, this student got arrested. He can't come back on campus until he comes and talks to me, the VP of student affairs. But it's 8 at night and I'm not on campus because it's not business hours and it's the weekend. So they're like, you need to stand on the corner where the main street intersects the campus and make sure he doesn't come on campus. Excuse me? At this point, it's wintertime. It's dark. It's between 8 and 9 p.m. This kid is understandably upset, just been arrested, just posted bail, trying to come back to campus, his home, and he's 30 years old, older than me, taller than me, bigger than me. Here, Liz, you go stand on a corner and you stop this big guy from coming on campus. And then in the meantime, the VP for Student Affairs, who's sitting at home, had done some research about this kid. finds out that he had served a 10-year jail term for attempted murder of his parents and was premeditated. We found articles from the newspaper saying that he had cut the phone lines of his house, then proceeded to go into his parents' room and stab his parents, they both survived, but resulting in his mother losing eyesight in one eye. And his little sister ran next door to a neighbor's to get help once she realized what was happening. So this is the person that I'm supposed to go stand on a corner in the dark in a rural small town and say, hey, you're not allowed to come back on campus. While all my supervisors were at home, very easy for them to call and be like, oh, just go do this. It's okay. The kid eventually did come back on campus and got back in the residence hall, but thankfully one of the RAs that he confided in saw him and told him that he couldn't be back on campus until he met the VP for Student Affairs, and then she took him to campus safety, which, thank God for that RA and that relationship that she had with him, because he very well could have gone back to the room of his ex-girlfriend and done whatever. But that was one of the nights that I almost quit. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a really great idea. And some of campus safety are former military. Like, no, how about you go and stand on a corner at nighttime in a rural community and wait for this guy that served a jail sentence for attempted murder to come back on campus, and you stop him because you have military training. So you can probably stop him quicker than I can. So that was just one of the craziest stories that I've ever experienced, and it still gets me heated to this day because looking back on it, I can't believe it. Like, here, just go stop this person with no support. But that's not all my stories, but that was just one of the craziest, so I hope I gave you a glimpse into